It took me 500 hours to beat the third game in the Kingdom Hearts series, and I promise it's not because I'm bad at the game. You see, I enjoy spending copious amounts of time doing unnecessary grinding in video games, and after spending over 250 hours grinding for experience on Destiny Islands, the next logical step would be to move on to the next game in the series and take on the same challenge but in a different tutorial world. There's just a tiny problem. The second game in the Kingdom Hearts series is somewhat divisive. Most people seem to love it, but there are a few people who aren't too fond of it. So, to please the audience, it would only make sense to skip over the controversial second game and move along to the third one, also known as Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
All joking aside, this early game grind is a monster of a challenge. Compared to the Destiny Islands grind, Kingdom Hearts 2 has more than double the amount of experience that is required to reach max level. So I bet you're wondering why I would subject myself to something I know is guaranteed to take twice as long. And well, it's simple really. The Lord of the Rings trilogy grossed over $2.9 billion, and if people are willing to sit through those boring ass movies that have ridiculous runtimes for seemingly no reason, then what's stopping people from experiencing my unnecessary adventure? I'm still waiting on my $2.9 billion though. I'm sure the check is just stuck in the mail. The tutorial of Kingdom Hearts 2 is broken up into 6 days, but for the sake of the Twilight Town grind, the only days that matter are these two. On day 3, Roxas gets to dive into his own heart and choose a dream weapon that'll influence the order in which he and Sora will earn abilities. And there's one ability that will help out immensely with this challenge. It's really the only ability that will help, but I digress. I'm talking about the experience boost. When equipped, Roxas and Sora will earn double the amount of experience when their health is below 50%. And for a long grind like this, it's pretty much mandatory. Now, I did mess up here and chose the Dream Shield because it's the best dream weapon, but also old habits die hard. So instead of earning the ability at level 7 like the Dream Rod allows, I didn't earn it until level 17. But the experience between level 7 to 17 is negligible when we're talking about the 2.8 million experience requirement for level 99. Now, if you really wanted to earn experience as soon as possible, then you could start your grind here by running back and forth between the Station of Serenity and the Station of Awakening, but that's just maddening. You only have one enemy that spawns here, which is the Dusk, and there's just a lot of time wasted walking up the staircase and walking back down the staircase. However, Roxas would be nice and beefy before the Twilight Thorn fight, but I'm getting carried away here. Day 4 and Day 5 don't matter as far as the grind is concerned, even though there is another experience grinding method in challenging Cypher on Day 4 over and over again, but that method is even more insane than the station grinding. So that just leaves the last day of the tutorial, which is Day 6. Axel comes around to pick on Roxas, but the simulation freezes and Twilight Town gets infested with nobodies, and this is where the meat of the challenge is. I also guess it's important to mention that I did this challenge on critical difficulty, which does shake things up a little bit. Roxas and Sora will take double the amount of damage compared to the other difficulties, but they'll deal out 25% more damage than usual. The health is also capped, but that doesn't matter when you're playing as Roxas because the health increases are milestone based rewards and not level based rewards. The only real disadvantage to choosing critical is that the experience gain is only 75% of the normal rate. But if you're going to do a Kingdom Hearts challenge, you might as well do it on the hardest difficulty. With that out of the way, let's talk about actually earning that 2.8 million experience. There are two types of enemies that will spawn in the simulation while Roxas is able to run around with the Keyblade, and that's the Dusk worth 6 experience and the Assassin worth 9 experience. And after spending so much time here, I became very acquainted with each individual enemy in Twilight Town. There are 24 Dusks and 9 Assassins that will inhabit the town, which will grant Roxas with 450 experience per loop. But hold your nobodies, because you'll have to work a little bit to hit that 450 number. Remember that experience boost I mentioned earlier? Well, it's integral to this grind, because it'll grant Roxas with double experience, which is amazing, but in order for the ability to activate, Roxas will have to be under 50% health, which means you'll have to play a dangerous game of get hit, but not too much, and kill an enemy, but don't pick up any loot. That last point is the hardest part, because Roxas has like a super magnet that specifically attracts health orbs. Seriously, dodging the money was easy, but those damn health orbs were annoying. So once his health touches 51%, you do gotta waste a bit of time and take more damage, because that double experience is the difference between 500 hours and 1,000 hours. Now, the cool thing is that the enemies here will respawn without any save scumming, but Roxas has to travel at least 2 areas away before the enemies will play nice and replenish themselves. So I just had him run in a big circle around Twilight Town while bashing those nobodies for what seemed like an eternity. But after 458 hours, 19 minutes, and 59 seconds, here's what happened. I goofed. I goofed. Oh no, I goofed. How did I goof? I need one of them to explode. I need one of them to explode. I need one of them to explode. Come on, no, one of you explode. You're fucking it up. Oh no. Here we go. You might be a little confused about what's going on in that clip, so let me explain. In Kingdom Hearts 2, there's this slowdown mechanic that activates when clearing an area or defeating a boss that's usually followed by a cutscene. So my plan was to get Roxas to level 98 and save just enough experience left over for when that slow-mo sequence activates after defeating the last assassin but before the Axel fight, so that Roxas would hit level 99 in slow motion. But as you can see, I goofed all over the place. But since I made a save file for every single level during the challenge just in case something happened, I was able to go back and capture how I really intended on ending this grind. So check this out.
We did it, you guys. We're totally heroes. What do we do now? What do you mean? Now we can finally play the game. Oh yeah.
Before we get into the actual playthrough, please consider subscribing to the channel because these videos take a long time to make and every subscription is greatly appreciated. Oh, and if you want to verify the legitimacy of the grind, I have a whole playlist worth of livestream VODs that you can sift through. But now it's time to get into the real reason why I spent 458 hours in Twilight Town, and that's to dominate every boss without breaking a sweat. Before Sora and his pals wake up from their year-long nap, Roxas and Axel do duel it out one last time. But Axel's little fire abilities don't stand a chance against a Roxas who just got done defeating roughly 90,000 Dusks and Assassins. Axel only lasted a pitiful 24 seconds against the level 99 monstrosity. It was then time to say goodbye to Roxas and welcome back our favorite anime protagonist, John Kingdom Hearts. So a question I received a lot during the grind was related to whether or not all the stats, abilities, and items would even transfer between Roxas and Sora. And before I started the grind, I did my research, so I knew with 100% certainty that everything transferred over. And it was a little annoying answering that question 10 times an hour, considering whenever you take control of Sora, the game literally tells you that everything transferred over. Anyway, Sora, Donald, and Goofy woke up at max level with over 300,000 money and an inventory maxed out on potions and high potions. So the party was well equipped to take on the rest of the game without any worries. The gang then made their way to Yen Said and let the fairy godmothers bippity boppity boop a new set of clothing onto Sora. And after donning the new threads and getting Valor form, I was finally able to start demolishing every boss in the game. However, there is one last thing to mention. Just like in the first Kingdom Hearts, the enemies do unfortunately have a damage ceiling that spoils a lot of the fun. So when you hear some of the times it took to beat the bosses, just keep that in mind. But to kick it all off was Shan Yu in the Lane of Dragons. He unfortunately became the first victim of Sora's overwhelming strength. Kinda. Unlike in Kingdom Hearts 1, where you can just wail on the bosses to your heart's content and take them on in any way you please, Kingdom Hearts 2 likes to limit your options by implementing scripted moments and putting reaction commands in front of your face like a pair of dangling keys. And I definitely fell victim to the latter right off the bat. I saw that red rocket command pop up and I couldn't press it fast enough. So the battle did go on for a little longer than what it should have, but I was still able to finish the first boss fight in 43 seconds. Moving on to the Olympus Coliseum. The party runs into Hades, who really wants them to feel the heat, and I kind of figured he would still be invincible during this first encounter, but I had a little bit of hope that I was so strong that I could just end him right then and there. Unfortunately, the former was true in this situation, so Sora and company just ran away from Hades. But that's alright, because there are multiple boss encounters during the first trip to Olympus, like Cerberus, who Sora and Auron defeated in 1 minute flat. There was an unnecessary Bushido that was used, because again, dangling keys, but it was still a swift battle. Dimix is also here chilling in the underworld, and Sora has to make that water dance. Now, you don't actually fight Dimix here, but I think the fight still counts, which adds another 54 seconds to the board. Coming off the heels of the 9th org member was one of the most frustrating fights during this run, which was with the big dog Pete. I had Sora combo the hell out of him with Valor form, but he did not want to give up. That's when I remembered that this is a scripted encounter. His health bar was deplenished in like 5 seconds though, but I guess there's 2 checks that need to happen for the encounter to end, which I'm assuming is Pete's health bar and an additional time-based mechanic, because I was forced to just run around for a minute until the second phase, or you know, the actual boss encounter. Which I guess is fair because this is a scripted fight, but it just adds to the annoyance of this OP run. Eventually, Hercules came in and he opened up an opportunity for the party to really wail on him without any further hindrances. So the first phase took 1 minute and 5 seconds, and the second phase took 16 seconds. Next up in the Coliseum is the fight where you gotta get up on the Hydra's back. So this fight is actually one of the few times where it is beneficial to use the reaction commands to speed things up a bit. But I was having way too much fun just slicing through the Hydra's necks over and over and didn't care to get up on its back. So for an OP max level run, the 3 minutes and 4 seconds it took to defeat the Hydra is a little disappointing, but you can't put a price on fun. Next on the agenda was to make a quick pit stop to Hollow Bastion, say hello to a few characters inside the 100-acre woods, close the book, and never open it again because I was low-key trying to speedrun this playthrough, and the 100-acre woods isn't necessary for simply rolling the credits. After that flyby, the party lands at Beast Castle, where there's way too many clear the enemy encounters that I had to slog through before I could continue the boss rush. See, the Kingdom Hearts 1 run was fun because Sora and the gang could just run past every normie enemy and just fight the bosses. By the way, you should watch that video if you haven't. Link is in the description. But unfortunately, Kingdom Hearts 2 loves holding the player's hand, so it's just something you gotta deal with. Luckily, that doesn't affect the thresholder from being taken out in 2 cycles, which consisted of 6 total combos. So the party was in and out of that encounter in 31 seconds. But the trouble didn't stop coming, because next up was the Beast in Hangry mode, which isn't a hard fight at all, but the 9 seconds it did take for me to defeat him seemed kinda long. Now, the last fight in Beast Castle is another one of those annoying encounters in which Sora can only do so much damage to Darkthorn before it triggers a scripted event. Listen, I really don't want to cause an angry mob, but it's confusing to me how Kingdom Hearts 2 is seen as the best game in the series when it discourages exploration, wants the player to follow the script, and is low-key a hallway simulator for like 90% of the game. Don't listen to me though, I'm a fake fan of the series that just likes swinging keyblades around. Anyway, the first phase of Darkthorn took 1 minute and 16 seconds, thanks to the scripted events obviously, and the second less hand-holding phase took 29 seconds. Now, I did use an unnecessary reaction command during phase 2, but come on, it's hard not to use the chandelier. With Beast Castle out of the way, it was now time to head to Mickey's Castle and escort Queen Minnie to the throne room, and then fly all the way to Hollow Bastion to get Merlin so the party can enter the Timeless River. Timeless Pete is the first boss to be eliminated in the world, and that took a whopping 11 seconds to achieve. It was basically one combo that I messed up, so there's definitely more room for improvement there. Now, I want to talk about the Timeless River just for a little bit. For those unaware, the gimmick in this world is to save 3 separate areas from Heartless that are wreaking havoc, which really isn't different than the other Disney worlds now that I'm thinking about it. But in one of those rooms, Sora and his pals are tasked with saving a burning building. The reason I'm mentioning this specific area is because of those stupid cars. I remember during my first casual playthrough on Critical that these cars were basically playing tennis with Sora's body, and it wasn't that much different during the max level playthrough. Those cars are way harder than any boss in the game, and I hate them so much. And then the battle with modern day Pete just continued to fuel my anger, because I went from getting bullied by cars to waiting for Pete to run his stupid script by comically traveling between the different locations. This encounter only took 57 seconds, and I was definitely glad to be done with the Timeless River after all that nonsense. Next up was Port Royal, which happens to be my least favorite world in Kingdom Hearts 2. This world is actually a hallway simulator personified, and the Pirate's Coat of Paint can't save it. There are also too many clear the area encounters, but if I'm being honest, I'm just not a big fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. That being said, fighting Barbossa was really fun. It took 1 minute and 3 seconds to finish the fight and escape that drab world. Moving on, Sora and the gang return to Agrabah and fight, hold on, let me look this up, the Volcanic Lord and the Blizzard Lord. You know, I never noticed this until I looked at the wiki just now, but their designs are disgusting looking. These guys are also boring because they follow somewhat of a script with their bouncing after damage triggers, but all in all, it took 1 minute and 11 seconds to take care of those beach balls. Man, we're just flying through these worlds right now. Next up on the list was Halloween Town, where again, Lock, Shock, and Barrel are keeping everyone on their toes. This time they get captured by the prison keeper along with everyone else's Christmas spirit, but the situation was rectified in 47 seconds with the help of Valor Form. Honestly, it wasn't that fun using dry forms during the run because the damage ceiling was already capped out with normal Sora using the base Keyblade, but it did help with morale. After the Prison Keeper was my least favorite fight during the max level run, Oogie Boogie. Boogie was a run killer during the first Kingdom Hearts max level playthrough thanks to its scripted events, and it ended up taking the crown for longest fight. Now this fight was still annoying because you can only get off 2 combos before the Bookster just negates all damage and continues the scripted interaction. And my gameplay was far from perfect to boot, but this time around it was only the second longest fight at 3 minutes and 41 seconds, wrapping up the first visit to Halloween Town. So after a quick trip back to Twilight Town to pay our respects, it was time to modulate some subnets and space paranoids back at the computer in Hollow Bastion. This world ended up killing all the training I had Roxas perform in Twilight Town. You see, I spent 450 hours trying to dodge every health orb in sight, but Space Paranoids is all about collecting those glowing balls, even during the fight with the dangerous program. Something cool did happen during this encounter though. The game stopped Sora from dealing too much damage because I guess it wants the program to fly around the arena at least once, but when it landed to heal, I just completely obliterated it without it restoring a single hit point. The whole interaction only took 1 minute and 37 seconds. The party then got spat out of the computer to go help the rest of the characters with the defending of Hollow Bastion. But before Sora, Donald, and Goofy can aid the Final Fantasy characters on their way to the giant crater, it was time for Dance Water Dance Part 2. I'm not gonna lie, Dimix did kick my ass a little bit here, but the cars back in Timeless River are still way more dangerous in comparison, so it wasn't that bad. After a 2 minute and 2 second dance, Dimix was sent to the Shadow Realm, and the party was able to fight their way to the iconic Battle of 1,000 Heartless. Now this encounter really wasn't much different than a typical playthrough because the enemies die in one hit anyway, but I'm still adding it to the board. It took 4 minutes and 56 seconds to clear out the enemies without using limit form for the added challenge. So after Project Defend, one of the only original Kingdom Hearts worlds, was completed, the party gets to revisit all the Disney worlds for a second time. The first stop during the revisit phase of the game was to the Land of Dragons to take out a few bosses. There's this one run-in with a mysterious man on a mountain who definitely isn't Riku, and it's not really a boss battle per se, but I'm still counting it. The mysterious man noped out of the encounter after 8 seconds. But to finish up the Land of Dragons for good is a fight with a giant winged heartless called Storm Rider that suffers a little bit from the reaction command curse. But it wasn't enough to stop Sora from permanently injuring it in 1 minute and 32 seconds. After the battle, it dawned on me that the Duck and the Goofster were still rocking with their default abilities, so I had to fix that, especially with the next boss that was waiting at Beast Castle, or so I thought. Xaldin is normally an annoying encounter even outside of its data battle, but giving the allies extra abilities didn't really matter because Sora melted Xaldin's health bar in 1 minute and 9 seconds. He only ended up wasting a little bit of time with one use of his desperation move. Honestly, I'm still shocked at how fast his health bar was drained. It was the first battle that really felt like I was controlling an overpowered protagonist. Next was the return to Olympus Coliseum, where it was time to really feel the heat and battle Hades for like the 3rd time or something. There's so many fake outs that Hades does that I lost track. Sora was able to silence Hades in 1 minute and 10 seconds, and after that riveting adventure, it was time to go back to Drabsville and take on the Grim Reaper. I know I said that Oogie Boogie was my least favorite boss fight in the game, but I kinda lied because that honor definitely goes to the Grim Reaper down in Port Royal. Don't get me wrong, the boss has a great design and the mechanics of the boss fight are stellar. It's just unfortunate that it happens to inhabit the worst world in the game. The Grim Reaper stole the show in terms of reaction commands, earning it the title of longest boss fight during the run at a whopping 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Most of that time was definitely my fault from just running around and not collecting the coins efficiently, but it was still reaction command central. Now that I didn't have a reason to ever go back to Port Royal for the sake of this challenge, my mood definitely improved as the party made their way back to Halloween Town to actually save Christmas this time. And after spending 45 seconds trapping Lock, Shock, and Barrel in giant boxes, it was time to take on the big boss in Halloween Town. I mean, Christmas Town. Once again, I remembered during my casual critical playthrough that I did have some trouble with the bad experiment, but it was a breeze this time. Like, too easy almost. It only took 1 minute and 4 seconds to finally save Christmas Town for good. This then led Sora and pals back to Agrabah to fly around on a magic carpet for a bit and defeat the more appropriate boss in Genie Jafar instead of those 2 random wizard lords. Luckily, Sora got to wail on the man himself this time, instead of just bashing that lamp that Iago was carrying around in the first Kingdom Hearts. Now, the Jafar fight is played with reaction commands, but when you're max level, it only takes 2 cycles in the span of 1 minute and 9 seconds to finish him for good. And with that, all the Disney worlds were officially saved. So it's time for the party to make one quick pit stop in Twilight Town, say hello to Axel, and then focus on the boss rush ahead in the world that never was, starting with the Roxas fight. This is the most dramatic fight in the game that somehow always gets ruined in the end because you definitely have the decisive pumpkin equipped and not a cooler looking Keyblade like Oathkeeper. It only took 53 seconds to defeat the character that I spent so much time with during the 458-hour grind fest, but man, what a way to come full circle. The next few boss fights feature some of the members from Organization 13, and these fights weren't really anything to write home about. Each one suffered from some sort of waiting around for reaction commands or just waiting for a desperation move to end. Xigbar took 1 minute and 20 seconds to defeat, Luxor took 2 minutes and 16 seconds, and Saïx rounded out the Organization member chapter with the lowest time at 1 minute and 6 seconds. This led Sora, Dawn, and Goofy to the grand finale. 15 flavors of Xemnas. To start off the dinner, there was the complimentary bread at the table, which is when Sora and Xemnas fight one-on-one. You gotta do the reaction command at least twice from what I can tell, but I could be mistaken there. Either way, Sora took down this Xemnas in 1 minute and 29 seconds. Next was the start of the point of no return battles, in which Sora and Riku get some appetizers before the main course. They blew up the engines in 1 minute and 36 seconds, cleared the chamber in 1 minute and 58 seconds, and took out the knight in 24 seconds with only one combo. For the main course was a double entree where the duo took on the dragon fight in 2 minutes and 44 seconds and then defeated the knight again in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. The dragon fight is a scripted event, but when Sora and Riku are able to deal out some damage, they do a lot. And with the second knight encounter, they spend more time flying in the void than actually fighting the boss. So while those times aren't too impressive, the damage sections are like putting butter in the microwave. But all this grinding in Twilight Town and fighting in random Disney worlds led to the final big anime fight. And while this last Xemnas phase wasn't the most efficient on my end as the person manipulating the buttons on the controller, Sora and Riku were able to squeak out a victory in 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So if you break down all the numbers that I've been throwing at you throughout the course of this video, you'll see that it took a total of 463 hours, 28 minutes, and 10 seconds to complete this challenge, including the grind itself plus the subsequent playthrough. So was it worth it?